Not all of them. But
He
yeah,
sure did.
that's my guy. D'Antoni's definitely my guy, and I had a lot of fun time with him. And just want to say thank you to you guys as well. You know, it's always fun playing in Phoenix because I know you guys are going to come out in full force and show up and support me. So thank you so much for coming to the game.
Well, let's quickly, these people have put together some amazing questions, better than I could ever come up with. Let's just talk quickly about the season in general, how things are going for you in Charlotte. Kind of on a little bit of a bad streak, 4 straight losses at this point, but still 17 and 18 and not a bad start to the season.
Yeah, it's been a little disappointing this last little stretch, but 82 games, you know, it's bound to happen, unless you're like the Warriors or something. We aspire to be, but you know, I think we just have to keep our heads up. And again, you know, we're not
NBA.
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I mean, I love the game, but I'm pretty competitive, so I feel like it's time for me to leave when I can't play at the level at which I want to. You know, I know some guys play until they're like 38, 39. And it wakes, you know, they wake up every day and it hurts. I don't want to do that. That's going to be too frustrating for me. So I'm probably going to say like 34, 35 maybe. I don't know. It's hard to say right now. It's hard to guess which wise I feel like.
The next question is, are you still thinking about becoming a pastor?
I don't know if I'm thinking that as much as I am more. I've been thinking a lot about maybe doing some public speaking, sharing my testimony, my story. You know, I think with being a pastor, a lot of that you got to go to seminary and go to school again, which I don't know if I really want to do. But I actually think, you know, if I do like public speaking, that'll actually give me more time to spend on my foundation. And stuff like that versus taking on a full-time ministry at one single church.
And one of the things I was so impressed with when I got a chance to visit with you last year is just your faith and the type of person that Jeremy Lin is. How has your faith just affected your basketball playing career?
It's helped me a lot. I think this year, the one year where I've been able to enjoy the season more than any other season. And it's not necessarily because of circumstance, it's more just you know, part of it obviously is improvement from last year, but I've had seasons that were better than this season. But I think my faith, learning to be content where God puts me. You know, I've had a couple verses, you know, for example, be still and know that I'm God. Just the stillness of, you know, to be content with who He is and the relationship I have versus always feeling like, man, I need to do this, or I need to get that, or I need to score, or accomplish, or get X amount of wins, or get to the playoffs, or whatever. And so that's always been my, you know, I'm a big dreamer, I'm very ambitious, I've always been that type of person. And so taking a step back and being more present in the today and the now has helped me enjoy the season a lot more.
That's one of the things, again, that was just so impressive to me, is that success. You were a great college basketball player, obviously had some success, and then were kind of a no-name in NBA circles. You just busted onto the scene in a huge way in New York. Linsanity was born. You're on the cover of magazines, you're on all these national talk shows and whatnot. Everybody is talking about Jeremy Lin. How did you stay grounded during that period? You never changed as a person, did you?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult. Can't say I'm perfect. I'm very proud in a lot of different ways. And, it helps that my mom yells at me every day still. And I had a really close support group that always tried to keep me accountable. Just basically the community that I have around me, they're just awesome. And so they helped me a lot. And then I just think, you know, I've gone through a lot of, you know, that's a high, but I've gone through a lot of lows as well. I think that always brings me back to, you know, all right, what is the purpose? What am I doing here? You know, how do I want to spend my time? Stuff like that.
Let's go back to our questions. And our fourth question, how does it feel to be an Asian in a predominantly African-American / Caucasian sport?
Well, you don't get to listen to the music you always want to listen to, that's for sure. You know, I think it's funny, you know, we took a preseason trip to China, and that showed me just how little the NBA knew about Asian people. Like, I'm not even gonna say like China or like stuff like that, I'm just gonna say Asian people people in general. It was just like, some of my teammates thought that like, sushi was Chinese food. I was just like, man, we got a long way to go. But it's fun. I get to teach them a lot about my culture. And at the end of the day, these are kind of my brothers who I just get to hoop with. And so race doesn't really matter that much.
Let's we talked about Mike D'Antoni, who coached you in New York. I know you had a great relationship with Mike. Talk about some of the other coaches along the way, maybe at high school, college, and here in the NBA, who have meant a lot to you and have really impacted you in a positive way.
My top two is my AAU coach, who I found in the 5th grade, and my high school coach, who I played for all of high school. Those two will be lifelong friends. I mean, these are guys who, you know, I talk to them about not just basketball, not my season. I talk to them about faith, life, you know, like, I talk to them about their marriage or my life or whatever. Just like the basketball is a unique ability to be able to create this type of bond where we're able to bring that beyond just the court. And, so those two, I keep in touch with all the time. Those are my guys as well.
I think most players in the NBA experience a lot of highs and a lot of lows. You have nights where you start, you hit 6 3-pointers, you dish out 12 assists, and there's some nights maybe you foul out, you get 2 assists, you score 4 points, you don't start. Are there Bible verses that you rely upon to help you get through those tough and low times?
Yeah, definitely. The crazy thing is, like, you know, I've never like heard from God audibly, like Him speaking to me, but the one way in which He's consistently showed up in my life. Just one of the ways in which He consistently showed up in my life is just, like I'll see over a short period of time, I'll see a bunch of that same verse over and over and over again. And so, this past season, Psalm 16:5 talks about having the Lord be your portion in your cup, and then Ephesians 2:10 talks about how He predestined the good fruit that we're going to bear, and then be still knowing that I'm God. Those 3 verses have taught me just not to worry about, you know, what's going to happen tonight or how many points I'm going to score or whether we're going to win, because the fruit that God wants me to bear will happen, no more, no less. I think Psalm 16:5 really talks about, you know, being above your circumstances, making the Lord your portion, your cup, and that He holds your lot. That's not, oh, I'm happy when things are going well and I'm sad when they're not. That's the Lord is your portion, your cup all the time. So that one has helped me a lot. Like a lot. That's why, like, we just lost and it sucks, but I can sit here and smile. And, you know, obviously, you know, the competitive side of me is like still thinking about the game, mistakes, or whatever. But I'm not like it's not as much of my identity as it used to be.
You don't get to this level and play in the NBA with the world's greatest athletes without being a little bit of a gym rat and consistently working hard on your game, but away from the court. What do you like to do to get away and relax?
Really considering whether or not to share this. It's extremely embarrassing, but for Christmas, my brother got me a Nintendo 3DS, and I may or may not have bought Pokemon. Started playing it like a lot. So that's probably what I'm gonna do tonight. But I also play a lot of video games. I play Dota 2. I have like a crew who they're always playing. Like, I gotta check my phone, but I'm 90% sure they'll be playing tonight. So I'll probably be doing that as well. And then the biggest thing for me is just hanging out with family and friends, which is more difficult with the NBA season. You know, and I love to pull pranks, especially on my mom.
Tell us about the greatest prank that you ever pulled off. It could be on your mom or a teammate.
I literally couldn't even tell you because it's just not appropriate. I'm serious. But the one that people know most about is just me pieing her for her birthday. Yeah, I'll just leave that.
That's awesome. Let's talk about some of those workouts. We've got some young players here, I'm sure, in the audience. What are some must-haves in terms of off-season workouts? Maybe it's shooting, maybe it's conditioning, maybe 1 or 2 tips that we can pass on.
They always say to be in the NBA or to be great at the sport, you have to be great at one thing. And so you got to figure out what that one thing is. And For me, it's been, the pick and roll, playmaking / getting in the paint, just, attacking and playmaking downhill. That's the one thing that makes me who I am as a player. So for each player, just figuring out what that is, and then shoring up the rest of your game so that you're not necessarily a liability. And definitely working on your weaknesses as well.
What do you think is the biggest issue facing Asian Americans today?
It's a heavy question. There's so many things. If you look at, I'm gonna go on a rant, so I'm gonna just say the perception that others have of Asians, and also included in that is a perception that Asians have of Asians. And I think when you look at society, in many ways, Asians are the model minority. It's okay, it's funny to make fun of them. They're not intimidating, they're nice guys, et cetera, they can't be great at this, they can't be great at that. And if you look at the way TV shows, the way they portray Asian Americans, a lot of it has been in the same role, and I think that shows you what people think of Asians. I think me going through insanity and going through some of the criticism and stuff like that, I think being Asian helped create this tremendous, the whole insanity movement, but then being Asian also created a lot of. I think I really respect Chris Paul's game because he leads in a different way. The way he commands his team is very, very, at the next level. The way that he knows the other team's playbook, stuff like that maybe fans might not always get to see or hear about. But when you play against him, you realize, you can't say any play call in front of him. Otherwise, he's going to know exactly what's going to happen.
We understand your foundation focuses on helping underprivileged youth. Have you thought about plans to expand that to serving other unmet needs of the community?
Yeah, definitely. That's always on our mind. There's just so many areas in which, people need help. But it's kind of going back to being great at one thing. Our foundation, my foundation needs to be great at serving one type of community, whether that's, Palo Alto, where I'm from, East Palo Alto, or whatever. And so before I spread myself too thin, I want to make sure I do one thing really, really well.
Before we let you go tonight, we want to ask you about just the East and the West as we approach the halfway point, almost to the All-Star game next month in Toronto. Talk about 2 or 3 teams that you think are favorites in the West. And besides your Charlotte Hornets, 2 or 3 of the tougher teams are going to be tough to deal with late in the season in the East.
Yeah, I just think it's also terrible that I played in the West the last, 3 years, and it was ridiculously competitive, and now I moved to the East, and all of a sudden the East is really competitive. I don't know why. 2 or 3 teams in the West. We got to start with San Antonio, Golden State, San Antonio, and OKC, probably in that order. And then out the East, I would say Cleveland is, I separated themselves as number 1, and behind them is probably Chicago and Miami, Indiana. I know it's kind of an easy way out because it's basically the top of the standings, but that's how I feel also.
Final thing, how nice does it feel to be on the road tonight? It's almost like a home game. We introduce you tonight, you get all these fun fans out here just screaming for you every time you touch the basketball. That's got to make you feel awfully, awfully good.
Yeah, it really does. When I say I'm very thankful, I actually mean that. I mean that more.